Okay, welcome into this masterclass, Law Before Logic. This is something that I have had on my heart, I guess, to teach for so long. Like it's something that really excites me, and so I'm so excited that you're here live with me and also on the recording. Hi to everybody. This is like such a beautiful concept that I was just saying right before pressing record. Like I do strongly feel that everybody needs to know about this. Like this is something that not many people know about. It will be completely like real. Like it's not many people know about these concepts. And so I hope that, my intention for this masterclass today is basically to even just open your mind a little bit. And I know that most of you here are already receptive to this material and you've already kind of explored the laws a little bit. So I hope that if anything, like you take a little bit more depth, you get some depth from this information, from this masterclass, so that you can really begin to shift your perspective out of this maybe even like struggle, stress, worry, figuring it out, overwhelm, into this beautiful, like harmonious way of existing. Just everything is happening for you versus to you. Okay. So as we jump in, I want first of all to just remind you about the workbook. So hopefully you've already received the workbook. I would love for you to pull it up on your screen, if it's like your computer, on your phone or something, so you can kind of follow along. If you have had the chance to print it off, that's amazing. If you're somebody who really likes to like fill things in, if not, that's totally fine. You can just grab a notebook, and then as we go through kind of the prompting, I would love for you to really get hands-on here, like do the work here now while we're in this energy. Okay, so before we even start, I want you to just consider or just ask yourself, what is my intention for this masterclass? Okay, so write it down. It can be a sentence, couple sentences. What do you hope to get from this masterclass today? Okay, what do you want to learn about from about the laws? That's the second question. Okay, so first, what is your intention? Write it down, feel it, get into the energy of it. What do you hope to get from this masterclass? And then secondly, what do you hope to get from learning about the laws? Okay. So I would love to ask you as well, or have you ask yourself, what do you currently know about the laws? What do you currently know about the laws? So maybe you're somebody who's like, I know nothing. I know nothing about the laws of the universe. And that's totally cool. That's totally fine. Okay, maybe you're somebody who's like, I know a little bit, I know this. Like, this is kind of like we're just getting clear on where we're at now. Okay, what do we know currently about the laws, and what do we want to learn? What do we want to expand into? Because anything, like we were talking about the other day, actually, on one of our group calls, that anyone can do, like it's the difference between doing something and doing something a certain way. It's with intention. Okay, so when we are opening up with this intention, I hope that you can feel that. It's like just setting an intention for this and what you want to focus on during this workshop together, this masterclass. Okay, so everything in this universe, including you, comes down to energy. Okay, it comes down to frequencies and vibrations. We already know we live in a vibrational reality. We can learn this, or understand this pretty easily by using a microscope, right? Everything is constantly moving. And so within this universe, there are some major universal laws or principles that explain how energy, frequencies, and vibrations work. Okay, so I said that there are many universal laws because there's no set number. Okay, so if you Google this, you'll see, some people say 7, some people say 11, 12. I personally believe there's about 11 or 12, but today we're only going to talk about 8. Okay. So, these laws, which are as real as the law of physics, right? So more or less, they dictate the rules to the game of life. This is how Bob Proctor says it. They dictate the rules to the game, okay? And so we can use them to consciously create the life that we want, to move out of that fight or flight and into this rest and restore, this peaceful inflow living, okay? So what are the laws? So just like I just said, like Bob Proctor says, they're kind of like rules to the game. So once we understand the rules, we understand how to exist more efficiently, how to create more efficiently. The laws are always working, whether we are aware of them or not, okay? And not understanding them can, to extent, put us at a disadvantage in life. Interesting, right? Just like any game, like if you're playing Monopoly, right? Monopoly, you don't know the rules of the game, like you're going to be at a disadvantage to someone who does know the rules. It's very basic, okay? So these laws are said to have originated from source. Like we don't know. It's just that we're in a vibrational universe that is such a beautiful, expansive place. And so where they came from, honestly, is like, in my opinion, it's not really important. It's seeing them in action and seeing how, wow, they actually do work. But it's kind of cool to think about, because just like the physical laws, just like the law of gravity, for example, these laws were not invented by somebody. They're not just like thought up and then like created, okay? But they're discovered by us through our observations and experiences with them, okay? So for example, the law of gravity, it existed way before it was discovered, right? It was just there. It's on our, it's a part of our planet. It's part of our existence on Earth. Okay, so it's kind of like that. Like these laws are here. They are existing. They are in existence, whether we know it or not, whether we are aware of it or not, right? And so if we want to have that advantage and we really truly want to live in that state of ease and flow and everything's happening for us, it helps to have a little bit of a understanding of the laws, right? It puts us at more of an advantage. Okay, saying that, you might be similar to me, which you probably are, where we've manifested by accident in the past, right? You've done that before. We've all done it. Where you're like, you know, the more we start to learn about this material, you're like, oh, I didn't know that, but I was already doing that, right? And or you're like, oh, now I understand how that happens. Okay, so we live in a spiritual world. We live in a spiritual world. We are spiritual beings. We are living in a physical body, having a physical experience, but we have this cool thing called an intellect. Okay, our intellect taps us into the spiritual, non-physical world. So here's something you might not have known, is our thoughts and spirit are synonymous. Thoughts and spirit are synonymous. So we can tap into this non-physical world and we can choose any idea, this non-physical world, choose any idea or thought. We can choose it and we can hold it on the screen of our mind, right? This is called visioneering. And it's something that Sandy Gallagher teaches quite nicely. I absolutely love her seminars on visioneering. It's so good. So anyway, she basically is teaching that you need to take your dream, or we have this ability to dream and hold that dream on the screen of our mind and turn it into this desire, this goal. And it's kind of like, she says, goes from fantasy to theory to fact, fantasy, theory, fact, right? And so when we practice our desire, when we live in the assumption that it is fulfilled, we have absolute discipline and do not allow thoughts of lack or limitation to affect us. We can manifest it, we can assume it, we can believe it into existence, right? So first of all, you got to know what you want. You've got to know what you want. If you are somebody you're watching and you're like, okay, this sounds great, but I don't know what I want, right? You need to know what you want. I'm going to give you an example in a little bit here of one of my friends who actually shared something this morning, just like I was saying before, and it's just so perfect here. So hold tight. Okay. So we need to practice this every single day. So once you're understanding your mental capability to understand, your conscious mind is your thinking mind, right? Once you grasp that you are capable, or you have the power to bring this desire to the physical world, and you're visualizing it and you hold it with your will, that's another higher faculty, it will attract everything we need to us. Okay, our desire. So if we don't know what we want, how are we going to attract anything to us? It's literally feeling like we're floundering around. This is especially true, or also true, if we're somebody who knows what we want, but then we get derailed. Okay, has that ever happened? We know what we want, we're holding it on the screen of our mind, we're excited behind it, and then eventually like something happens and we get a little bit discouraged, or we get a little bit like we're questioning ourselves. Okay, this happens when we do that as well, as it throws us off and we're off in this weird energy of like, do I want that or do I not want that? Okay, so it needs to be this dream into a goal, like a yes or yes, 100%, this is my dream and my desire. And don't let this freak you out like you can't change your mind. You can change your mind, but I hope that you change your mind to add more beautiful details. You know, you get more clear. This is also something that Sandy teaches actually in her work, and is something I'm really, really passionate about as well, is knowing all the details. Okay, and that sounds a little bit contradicting, slightly. Hold on. Okay, so for example, I hear this sometimes from women who really want to attract their dream partner, and they're like, oh, but I can't be too specific, like I shouldn't be that picky. And I always am like, hold on, like wait a second, you should be that picky, and you should be that, you need to be. You deserve to attract like nothing less than your absolute perfect dream partner. Okay, will that shift and evolve over time? Potentially, like those requirements or whatever you want to say, will that shift over time? Potentially, right? And it's not that you're going backwards, you're actually just finding out more details. Similarly, if we desire our let's use the example of a home. Okay, if we desire a home and we are we're thinking of it, and we want to have all the details, right? We want to be able to paint the picture in our mind so clearly with these details. Okay, are we are we what's the word I'm looking for? Like, are we like definite with these details? Not necessarily. Like, they can shift. They can be this or something better. I always say that if it's not this, it's something better. The perfect XYZ is waiting for me. If it's not this, it's something better. Okay, so this is a little bit like interesting, right? Visioneering, this idea that we get to create anything on the screen of our mind. And those of you that have been around a little while, you know what we're talking about here. We've done this before. So why is it different? And how do the laws play an effect here? Like, how do they get involved? Okay, so I want to share my friend's experience that I literally just read it like right before I jumped on here. Okay, and she just posted one of our groups. So she has this list of things that she wants to do. So this list of things that had a lot to do with debt. Okay, paying off debt, or buying certain things, right? And so if somebody, let's just use her as an example, if she was to live in her 3D reality and continue to recreate more of the same through, let me just get my word here. If she was to exist purely in that 3D and say, I don't have the money to pay this debt, because maybe in the physical reality she didn't in one moment, right? Maybe she's like, I have this Like, I want to pay this bill and I need to pay this bill. I need to pay rent. I need to, like, this credit card debt. I just want it all gone. Okay. And so she's getting her energy behind it. But if she was in her physical 3D, solely living in the physical, the masculine, trying to figure it out, what's she going to come up against? She's going to come up against lack, limitation. And what's she going to create? She's going to create more of that. And she will most likely see proof that she doesn't have the money. She doesn't have what she needs, those resources. So she's blocking, she could be blocking herself from this ease and flow and working with the laws. Okay. So instead, what she did, she's been following along for a little bit here. I've known her for years. She wrote down on this list, and she's like, she literally said, I was so done trying to figure it out. I put it down and I declared it to be done. What she did there, she got her energy behind it. She started visualizing it, seeing that it as done, right? Holding it with her will, seeing it as done, being disciplined, and visualizing her desire there, getting the energy of that desire already fulfilled, which was paying off this debt in various ways, right? And so how does that happen? What happens next? She released control, and almost instantly, she started to receive the perfect people, opportunities, and experiences attracted right to her. Okay. Somehow, like, she won the lottery, right? People say, oh, but money doesn't fall out of the, money doesn't just come out of nowhere. I beg to differ. Sorry, it's happened to me. Okay. You focus on something, you get your energy behind it, and you visualize it, and you hold it, and you act in the assumption, which we're going to talk about, law of assumption. You act in the assumption that it is yours and it's already here. It's already done. None of this becoming, right? When you really get your energy behind it, it's such a beautiful, beautiful thing. It's effortless. Okay, you will begin to attract the perfect experiences, the perfect things you need to make your dream a reality. Okay, so to bring that desire to you. It's so cool. Okay. So I want to, so just to finish that story with my friend, is that, yeah, she received money from unknown sources to fulfill her desire, to pay off the debts. And she's like, I'm not done yet. It's just, it's just starting. And once we get a glimpse of this, like, limitless, holy cow, look at what I did. And it's so easy, by the way, it's so easy for us, for our paradigm, to get loud and say, oh, that was just coincidence. Oh, it was just blah, blah, blah. You didn't do that. It's happened to me. It's so easy for us to be like, oh, no, that was a fluke, and so don't do that to yourself. Celebrate it. Celebrate how incredible you are and how powerful you are. Okay. So it doesn't matter how far-fetched your desire seems to you. If you're really tapped into your desire, your heart's desire, it is happening for you. Yes or yes, if you can hold the faith and have a disciplined mind. Okay. The way to manifest it will come to you. Okay. So I wanted to read you this quote by Bob Proctor. I love it. I think it's amazing. So he says, the moment your belief matches with any state, you fuse with it, and this union results in the activation and projection of its plots, plans, conditions, and circumstances. This new state of conscious awareness becomes your home from which you view the world. It is your workshop, and if you are observant, you will see outer reality shaping itself upon the model of your imagination. So beautiful, right? Keyword, if you are observant. If we're stuck in our current experience, this is kind of just like my friend said. She's like, I was so done trying to figure out. So I wrote it down, declared it as done, like got my energy behind it and let it go, right? If we are stuck in our current experience saying, I don't have any money, I'm trying to figure out, I feel overwhelmed, we literally blindfold ourselves. We block ourselves on an energetic level, all the levels, okay? So if you understand and believe that this works, you will receive the ideas, plots, plans, and circumstances exactly as you need them. So interesting, right? So, your understanding, this is another aspect here, is your understanding needs to grasp this, okay? Or you're not going to do the work. So that's something as humans we have is this, we have this intellect, we have this like incredible mind. We also have this paradigm, this programming. Our programming is completely very unique to us, right? And it's something that basically, as you guys know, it is like a collection of beliefs and habits and that we've experienced in our past that we've held on to that kind of just form who we are and how we see the world, and how our, you know, our habits, our paradigm has a lot of hold on us is basically what I'm trying to say. Okay, so if our if we don't grasp it and understand more or less how this works, or seeing our goal as even possible, most of us won't do the work, right? We're not fully going to commit to it if we don't see it as a possibility. I've talked about this before, okay? Our conscious mind needs to grasp it as a possibility in order for our subconscious mind to believe it to be true. Okay, so our conscious mind is the thinking mind. This is the part of our mind that negotiates, you know, it's our thinking mind. It's always on processing, questioning. It has the ability to accept or reject any idea, remember. Most of the time, the conscious mind, you know, I want to say like unregulated conscious mind, like a conscious mind out of control, is just accepting every idea, right? And so our conscious mind, our understanding, needs to grasp this idea or this dream or this desire as a possibility, okay, before we're going to actually commit to it. All right, so our subconscious mind is the feeling mind. It is our emotional mind, our kind of more of our feminine feeling mind, okay? So order is heaven's first law. This is something I think, again, Neville might have said, or Bob Proctor, or even one of the older guys, Think and Go Rich. What's his name? Napoleon Hill. Order is heaven's first law. There must be order and understanding in the mind. Okay, in our physical world as well. I always think of this, order is heaven's first law. But if we have chaos in the mind, what are we going to experience? If we have misunderstanding in the mind, or if we have, you know, if we don't understand or even grasp our, you know, our goal or dream or desire as even being potentially possible, we have the opposite of order, right? We have confusion. So we want to find order in the mind. We want to get really, really clear on our desire, and we need to kind of like work in this orderly fashion, right? So we want to have order and understanding. So we must find that in our mind and create that before we will manifest, before we will be able to work in alignment and in flow with the laws, right? So for example, someone might be asking, how is that possible if I'm feeling so overwhelmed? If I feel like chaotic or chaos in my mind, how is that possible? Okay, so this is a bit of a process, but I hope that you'll put this into work. Is we need to practice, but we also need to understand that we get to release this chaos. We do not need to hold on to it any longer, okay? I always suggest that it's called brain dumping, like brain dump everything out on paper. Get it all out of your head, clear it out. And you owe yourself that, right? Like commit it to yourself. It's not like it takes extra time away from something else. It's the most important work. This is the most important work you can do, or you could be doing, is cleaning out your mind, getting rid of this clutter and getting rid of it forever. Okay, what we're going to do here now is start to realize that we can be working with the laws, but we need to release this perceived control that we think we have. Okay, so we need to understand that there's something bigger than us guiding us that wants to work with us and through us. Okay, and maybe that sounds a little bit crazy, but it's true. Okay, we are living in a spiritual world. Like we said before, we are spiritual beings, that we have this really cool ability to tap into spirit. Remember, spirit and thought are synonymous. Just through our thoughts, we can create anything we desire through our thoughts. And so what happens when we're thinking thoughts of lack, limitation, overwhelm, not enough time, whatever it is, we'll continue to create more of that. So it's up to you to make a choice right now. Do you want to continue living and existing in that state? Or do you want to get it out of your mind and release it? Say, no, I no longer am here to figure it out. I'm here to live in harmonious flow, enjoy my life, and live in this state of being, which we're going to discover in a bit here, in harmony with the laws. Okay. Excuse me. So I hope this is landing. I hope this kind of makes sense. Okay. So I love that quote from Bob Proctor. It's really, really, really important to detach from our current experience. Okay, we've been taught our entire lives to live through our five senses. We need to create this, we get to create this experience and this vision for what we want our life, desire our life to look like and to feel like. We get to hold that on the screen of our mind and we get to bring it into our reality. Okay, so I want you to pull up the notebook now, and we're going to go through a few of, well, actually 8 of the laws that I absolutely love. I think they are so powerful and so, what's the word I'm looking for? Just so helpful for lack of a better term. Okay, I'm just going to pull up the notebook here too. Okay, so pull up your notebook. The first one we're going to start with is the law of attraction or vibration. Okay, so you guys have probably had some experience with law of attraction or vibration. You probably have a pretty good understanding of this law. The law of attraction is a secondary law under the law of vibration. Okay, so law of vibration is basically stating that everything moves, right? We live in a vibrational universe, like we kind of already said, so nothing rests. Everything is always vibrating and moving, okay? So everything ever created follows this law, okay? So when we think about thoughts, like let's talk about thoughts. So thoughts are the most potent form of energy there is. They penetrate all time and space. So the thoughts you think carry a vibration with them. Interesting, right? So there's some kind of like talk about like, oh, you have to hold it for like 13 seconds or something. Like, I don't know if I really like care too much about that, to be honest. It's more of like really truly the thoughts you really truly think. If you have a thought that comes into your mind that you don't want to come into your mind, I'm not saying that it's like, okay, in a split second, a thought that comes in, we have the ability through our conscious mind to accept or reject it. We have probably a few seconds there to say, ooh, doesn't feel good, reject. Okay, cool. That's using our intellectual faculties, our higher faculties, right, that we have as human beings. And so if we don't reject thoughts that are not serving us and our feelings of lack and limitation or whatever it may be, thoughts that make us not feel good, we are getting emotionally involved with them. So they are then impacting our own body's vibration. Okay, So interesting, right? So when we become aware of the thoughts that we think and we begin to recognize and practice, it does say practice sometimes for sure. We get better at it over time. This accepting or rejecting and just noticing where we're at in our head, noticing like, oh, I'm in a state, I'm in a funk, am I going to choose to stay here? And sometimes we need to, pity party, it's okay. Or am I going to choose to move on? Am I going to recognize that, hey, I am in control here. No one's coming to save me, right? I get to choose, only me and no one else. Am I going to stay here feeling this state and continuing to manifest this more of this feeling, more of this reason to feel this feeling? Or am I going to shift it? Really interesting, right? So as we become aware of this and our thoughts and become aware of our feelings are basically how the language we use when we are describing our vibration. Okay, so if we are saying, I am feeling upset, I'm feeling angry, I'm feeling frustrated, I'm feeling like that, we are basically stating, I am in this vibrational frequency. Okay, frustration does have some energy behind it. So I'm not always, feeling sad or feeling defeated. That has a lower vibration, right? Feeling frustrated, you got some fire in you and you're ready to do something about it. Okay, so feelings and how we're expressing in that way is we are stating our vibrational frequency in that current situation, okay? So there's a connection between our feelings and what we attract. You've probably already experienced this many times yourself, right? So if you start the day in a state, maybe like you got woken up by something, it didn't go very well, and you're in this like, oh, those feelings are going to continue to attract more experiences into your life to kind of back up that claim of like, I'm feeling in a funk, I'm having a bad day, Okay. All of a sudden, what happens next? Something happens again and again and again and again. It's kind of like a snowball effect, right? This is very common for people that are lacking emotional responsibility. That's what I'm going to say. Okay. So, so you can see how our thoughts are directly connected to what we attract into our life. So interesting, right? So the vibration or feeling that we are in leads to the actions we take as well. If we are in a vibration or a frequency or a state of mind that is lack, limitation, I'm not good enough, like blah, 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 who am I to do this? I don't deserve this, do. What are we going to do? We're definitely not going to take that aligned action towards our desire. Let's use my friend as an example again. If she was in the vibrational frequency of, I don't have any money, I just have all this debt and I have all this I just need to pay all this thing and I don't have any money. And if she's in that vibration of lack, limitation, guess what? She is blocking, literally building a brick wall around herself. There is no helping somebody in that situation. There's no like outside or inside. The laws cannot work within that environment, is what I'm trying to say. Okay, you are blocking yourself. So when we shift it and we can open up to these ideas and start to build, see, this is where, I do things differently. We do things differently around here, don't we? And some people just don't understand it, and that's okay. So the tendency for most humans is to be in that state and to act from that place, to make decisions from this place. Like, I just wish my family would understand this. Don't we all? Not my close family, like my extended family. Okay. I'm so grateful that my partner is totally on board with this. So, but maybe you're somebody who doesn't have a partner that understands this or is even open to hearing this. Hold the space for them. They will eventually. Okay. Focus on you. So anyway, where was I? Most people take action from their current reality. What we need to do and what we get to do is choose. We get to build the image of what we want to happen in the screen of our mind and act from that place. Remember what Bob Proctor said. Remember that he says, the moment your belief matches any state, you fuse with it. Okay, so Is the state you want to fuse with your current reality of having no money and not being able to pay your debt? Or is the moment your belief matches with any state, the state you want? Is the state you want have the ability to pay your debt? What is the state you want, right? You fuse with it, but you get to choose through your focus. And this union results in the activation and projection of its plots, plans, conditions, and circumstances. It is honestly kind of unexplainable. Okay, unexplainable, especially to somebody who is really, truly in the masculine physical world. Okay, I gotta see it to believe it. Okay, because this is not seeing to believe it, it's believing it to see it. Okay, so once we have this belief and it matches that state, it's this projection of its plots, plans, conditions, and circumstances come, right? Everything we need comes. Okay, so back to the law of attraction or vibration, this is that, right? So when you understand the law of attraction, instead of allowing your current situation to impact your thoughts, your actions, instead of allowing that outside world to impact what you think and how you feel, okay, we need to start living from the inside out. We call it living from the inside out. We choose what we want to focus on, and we only focus on thoughts that align with what we want. Okay, this causes us to change our vibrational frequency. It causes us to change, like, even if, let's use the example of I'm living my dream life now, right? So that we're in transform, we know that. This perspective of shifting from I'm not living my dream life now, this, and this is not right, like I'm not right, blah, 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 all these things, like feel that vibration of I am not living my dream life now. It is a low vibration. Shift into, oh my gosh, I am living my dream life now. And we're holding the vision of what we want to see in our physical world, but we're holding it on the screen of our mind, our fourth dimension, our imagination. Okay, and then what will happen? We'll begin to attract the perfect people, experiences, and opportunities to us through by law, through the law of attraction and vibration. So cool, right? So I love the law of attraction. I love the law of vibration. Like we did it as, we shared it as number one, and you will see it's everywhere, right? The law of attraction / law of vibration are very, very popular, very important laws for a very, very good reason, right? So next one, in your workbook, I want you guys to write down, I hope that you took some good notes through that little section there. And I want you to write down your biggest takeaways from each of these laws that we cover. I want you to write down your biggest takeaways and, excuse me, and how you're going to put it to use. We're going to come back and reflect on this at the end. I've got some kind of discussion questions and some kind of like a summary for us to go over as well. But I would really highly suggest that you write down your biggest takeaways, what you hear, and really even come back to this recording to watch it all again, right? You can do it as many times as you want. But remember that the more that we hear this information, the more that we practice it, the more it takes it from that intellectual understanding and moves it into the body. And that's where we want to be. We want to be that embodiment of this information, of this material, and we want to exist in this way. Okay, over time, we will start to shift our perspective. Our paradigm will start to literally transform. And what will happen is our 3D physical reality will start to transform into what we can see and feel in our fourth dimension. Okay, so the next law we're going to cover is the law of perpetual transmutation. So this law basically states that everything in our universe, everything that we can see, hear, smell, taste, or touch, together with our emotions, is the manifestation of energy in various levels of vibration. So what does that mean? Energy is a constant state of transmission and transmutation. It's always moving. It never rests. It's the cause and effect of itself. Okay, energy cannot be created nor destroyed. It just is. So the law of perpetual transmutation states that energy, which is the non-physical level of life, is always moving into physical form. So there are thoughts, which are energy, right? We just talked a lot about how the power our thoughts have, and how they are the most potent form of energy. Therefore, listen to this: any idea or image that is held on the screen of the mind or in the mind and properly nourished must move into its physical form. Okay. So what does it mean to be properly nourished? Just like we kind of talked about a few minutes ago, it's like we need to practice it. We need to visualize it. We need to give it energy. Just like if we were watering a garden, you need to go out there and you need to give it water every single day, pretty much, right? Especially when they're little seedlings, they really need some help getting started most of the time, right? So this is a big deal. We must nourish it. We must be disciplined in this pursuit of our desire being realized. We must, honestly, like I feel like it's a little bit maybe intense, but we must be like, what's the word? Like there's no messing around here. We've like got to be serious when we're talking about this. Okay. And so when we have this desire, we have to have that energy of like, this is mine, yes or yes, especially if you are somebody who has a very strong paradigm, like most of us. And we've been through some interesting things in our life that are contradicting our desire. Or we have lovely family members that like to push their perceptions and perspectives onto us. Okay, so it's just interesting, right? So if we need to be strong and we need to hold it. And because when we have a desire, you might have already experienced this, is that when we are trying something new, it's kind of out of the box, out of our normal, usual, something that we're, normally comfortable with. If we're out of there and we're in like, holy cow, I've never been here before, our paradigm gets loud. It gets so loud. I've compared it before in the past, compared to kind of like a toddler a little bit, that like kind of they only know what they know. They only know what they've experienced. Okay. So, and I know that that's kind of, and that's not necessarily true, right? I do believe like Montessori, the cup is already full. We just need to bring the information and the knowledge out of the child. I do believe that to be true for us as well. Everything, when we have questions and we are looking outside of us, everything is actually inside of us. Okay. But for this example, the toddler is only aware of what it has experienced up until that place, is kind of what I'm trying to say. So anytime there's something new, the toddler's like, no, like no chance am I doing that. I don't know what that is. I'm not down, right? So that's kind of like our paradigm that's like throws up these flags like right away, like no. Or it gives us all of this reason to not do it or to not believe it. And it feels very real. Like it feels very, very real. So it's up to us to have this like determination and full commitment to say, no, I'm not believing that anymore. And I'm building new beliefs. Because remember, you guys know this, all we need is to choose again. We don't need to spend time there. We can address it and say, hey, yeah, I recognize you, but I am not there anymore, and get so deeply connected back in with your desire, your dream, your goal. Hold it there and just continue to continue to practice experiencing it. Okay. So if thoughts are energy, and any idea that we can create, any idea on the screen of our mind and hold it in the mind and nourish it every day, at every moment, remember that those old beliefs and that old program is going to show up. All we need to do is choose again. Remember that everybody has that happen to them to some degree or another, right? It's up to us to choose again. Over time, it will get easier. Okay, and over time, our kind of set point raises as well, right? Our own self-worth, our self-image, everything changes and shifts, okay? So when that happens and we're properly nourishing these thoughts, it must move into its physical form because the emotions are expressed through the body and the body moves into action, which produces the results. Okay, it goes from thoughts being this powerful energy, holding this idea, creating this idea on the screen of our mind, nourishing it and practicing it every day, choosing again anytime we get off track, right? And it kind of invokes this feeling in the body because our emotions are expressed through the body. But you remember how we're feeling. If we're feeling in a high vibration because we're thinking of our goal being realized now, we're acting in the assumption of our dream and a desire is being real now, we move differently, right? And so the body moves into action. The body moves into action, which produces the results by law. So this law, the law of perpetual transmutation, explains the creative part of us, the creative process. It also explains, some people believe, prayer, right? Prayer is the movement that takes place between spirit and form with and through you. Okay, so that's just another piece to ponder, right? So our thoughts are so powerful. We've seen this happen before as you think of somebody and then, oh, hey, they're right there. Like it's so, I don't think we really truly can grasp how powerful our thoughts actually are. And so when we can open up to this idea that, hey, I can create any idea on the screen of my mind. What am I choosing to create? What am I choosing to create? It's a good question, right? Okay. So that's the more or less the law of perpetual transmutation. Really good one again, like, and it's just like, it feels very empowering to know that, you know, by law, this is what happens is the thoughts I think are by law will produce these physical results. They will, what's the word? Like get my body, they will put my body in a certain frequency, right? I will be in a certain frequency and I will take specific action. I always talk about this actually, like when, you know, when people are like, you know, the how is strong, or I need to figure it out. I'm like, you don't need to figure out anything. All you need to figure out is what you want. Okay. You need to figure out what you want. And then you can release that control. And this is the law that really, really, well, honestly, they all work so well together. But you can see now how this law helps that thought, that dream to manifest, because it's not like, you know, it's honestly like, okay, my friend, for example, the one that just won, she won the lottery because she had this debt she wanted to pay off. She got the, you know, oh, well, better go get a lottery ticket. You know, she got that intuitive hit of like, hey, this is what I should do. So the perfect people, experiences, and opportunities show up when you are in that vibrational frequency. Okay, that makes sense, right? Instead of being in that lack limitation, you're blocking yourselves. You're not going to receive that inspired in spirit moment of, hey, I feel called. I feel inspired to do this. You're like, I feel inspired to go lay down in bed and like, you know, be in my stuff. Okay. So I'm not saying that like that's a bad thing necessarily. Okay. But I hope you understand what I'm trying to say here, right? Is that we have this ability to see things from a different perspective and to shift our energy in a moment. We can shift in a literal second. We can shift. We can start to feel differently. Okay. And when we feel differently, we attract on a different level, right? We're on a different vibrational frequency. Okay, let's talk about the law of assumption. This is like, oh my gosh, this is one of my absolute favorites. So the law of assumption affirms that everything that comes to you is a direct result of your state of consciousness. You can assume you can, or you can assume you can't. Okay, so the law of assumption is one that I think I use, I mean, in every moment of every day, right? And I always refer back to it because I think it's so powerful. But the law of assumption is basically like what you assume to be true will be. Okay, so if you are, in that physical world of, this is what's happening, this is how these people are, this is my current reality. What are we assuming? We're assuming more of that, and it's going to continue to manifest more of the same, right? There is some level to this as well, is that some people start their day, I like to call it like a bag full of assumptions, like a whole bag full of assumptions already set for the day. So what does that mean? It's like, we assume that the day is going to go a certain way. We assume that these people are going to show up a certain way. We assume our children are going to act a certain way. We assume we are going to do a certain thing or not, right? This morning in our proximity inner circle group, which most of you are in, our affirmation this morning was, I am one of the most, disciplined people I know. I am one of the most disciplined people I know. When we act in the assumption of this statement, of this affirmation, just like we talked about with the law that we just talked about, perpetual transmutation, like we will assume that identity. When we assume that identity, what happens? We start to attract from that place. Okay, so that's the law of assumption, more or less, is that we get to choose what we are assuming into reality. So sometimes, I'll use the example of technology. Sometimes I have had experiences where people are like, I am not good at this. I am like, well, like listed off, basically digging themselves a hole. And I say, well, sounds like an assumption. So I want you guys to ask yourselves, what am I assuming to be true? What am I assuming to be true right now? And so when the technology thing, and I've personally experienced it before as well, and I had mentioned this before probably a few times about plane tickets. So I always am like, okay, I gotta check my energy, and I have to get in the energy of my wish fulfilled. I have to decide, okay, what is it I want to see here? What am I assuming to be true? What am I looking for? Because if I come from my physical 3D reality and I'm coming in as a kind of victim, victim is kind of a harsh word. I think I should find a new word to use in that sense, but I'm coming in kind of as a result of my findings or my experience. And I'm looking for, like, I don't know what I'm looking for, but I'm just like, I'm there exploring. What am I going to find? I'm going to find all sorts of different things. But if I have a clear picture on the screen of my mind of what I want to find, of what I want to do, or what I want to experience, then I will start to see that into the physical reality. It's so cool how this works. So if somebody has an assumption that I am so bad at technology, I'm you have this assumption, what's going to happen? For some reason, your computer doesn't work for you, right? For some reason, you have no clue, all these things. Okay, has that happened to you? What are you assuming to be true? So interesting, right? How that works. And so, law of assumption, what we assume will be true. So we can work with this law through assuming different thoughts, right? We can start to, this kind of goes along with all the other laws we've talked about so far, holding that vision, that desire on the screen of our mind, feeling it, getting in the energy of it, like nurturing it, embodying it. And then we can assume, we can live our life in joyful assumption of this wish fulfilled, of this desire already being manifested. Okay, you've heard me talk about the vision boards and how vision boards don't work, because they put something on a vision board, it's beautiful, it's amazing, but they're longing, they're seeing a disconnect. So this idea of becoming, or in the future, I will be like this, there's a disconnect. This is not manifestation how we teach it here. Okay, so how we teach it here is we are taking this vision, this idea, this thing that we've created on the screen of our mind, and we're moving it into our physical world now. And so we can do that. We can close the gap, collapse time, quantum leap, whatever you want to call it, using the laws, especially the law of assumption. In this example, we're talking about the law of assumption, through assuming that we are already there. Okay, but first we need to know, where is there? How does it feel? Who am I when my desire is in my physical reality? And we need to become that version of us now. But we can start by just assuming we are already there. Because why aren't we? Right? We are where we are because we think we are. I just saw a thing on social media this morning. Where was it? I think it's on this page. Is it this one? Maybe this one. I think it's by Bob Proctor as well. I don't know where it went actually. It's basically, he just basically was saying, like, I am because I think I am, or because I believe I am, right? I am where I am because I believe I am. Like, if we want to be something somewhere differently, why can't we begin to assume that we're already there? What's stopping us? Really good question, right? What's stopping us? Our current 3D reality, right? But what happens when we begin to assume that we are already there? Our 3D reality will shift. The people around us that we are saying in this moment, we might be saying, oh, I can't because of my kids. I can't because of my partner doesn't think like that. Or my partner, every time I talk to him, he brings me back down. Or it's like I have to pick myself up every day. Stop allowing that to happen, right? Just don't allow it, reject it. And it's okay. You don't have to start a fight or have like a big issue over it. It can literally just be like, I reject that thought. And it's in your mind, I reject that thought. And, focus on what is working for you. Focus on your own assumptions and developing your own awareness, and everything around you, everyone around you will follow suit through by law, right? They will by law. It's so cool how this works. Okay. So the next one we're going to talk about is, let me see what's next. The law of rhythm, I think, is in that workbook. Yeah, the law of rhythm. So the law of rhythm is such a good reminder, to be honest. It's something, like, especially as women, it's so relevant and needs to be talked about more, I think. It's this basic concept that everything is always in constant state of ebb and flow. Okay. So nothing is this constant, flat, monotone, like we should be emotionally like this all the time. It's not true. It's not even possible. Okay. And so when we understand the law of rhythm, we can understand and just give ourselves grace that, we can embody the truth that everything is moving to and fro, flowing in and out, swinging backwards and forwards. This is so powerful to understand. It shows us as well that there's always a reaction to every action. Reaction to every action. Okay, so we're not going to feel good or great all the time. No one does. Okay, and if we did, we wouldn't even know it because we wouldn't have the awareness of something else, right? So when we're not feeling our best, these feelings help us to enjoy when we are. Do you know what I mean? It's like this opposites, this polarity. Excuse me. Okay. So this law also governs the movements of the planets and their orbit, and mineral and vegetable kingdoms as well. I'm reading some notes here. Okay, so what that means is, like, the law of rhythm, you're not going to be able to plant, in certain parts of the world, you're not going to be able to plant tomatoes year round, right? In the northern, North America, you're going to have a pretty difficult time in most of the places in growing tomatoes year round. Okay, so this is the law of rhythm. There's a certain time when we need to plant tomatoes, for example. Okay, so the sun setting and the sun rising, the moon, the ebb and flow of the tides, everything, the seasons, everything is in like this rhythmic ebb and flow, the law of rhythm. Okay, so this is really cool because we can have the awareness to be able to give ourselves grace and recognize, hey, this is just for a moment, right? And this law of rhythm, we can, when we're in this kind of like a downswing, or this, maybe we can recognize we're in a little bit of a negative vibration or having a bad day, we can recognize it thanks to this law of rhythm. We can recognize, hey, I'm not feeling my best, and we can choose again through the law of rhythm. Okay, so we're not going to feel good all the time, but we do have the ability to choose again in a split second. Okay, so everything has the ability to shift. Everything has this ability to change. So even when we are in these moments of not so nice, whatever, or this negative situations, good times are coming, like the better times are coming. And so we can play with it through our own awareness of recognizing, hey, this is a down, this is a lower place, and I want to switch it so I can choose again. And so we can then come back into this higher vibrational state. So the law of rhythm is in everything, right? And so it's everything is constantly going one way and then the next, right? It's swinging backwards and forwards. So it's kind of like a little bit of a relief when we're thinking about that, because when we're in the down, when we're in that lower vibrational state, we can have this clarity and confidence that, oh, hey, I see this, but I know that this means that the up is coming again, right? It's a constant up and down. Okay, nothing is constantly flat, monotone all the time. Okay, so hopefully that helps. Like the law of rhythm. What else can I share on this one? Let's see if we can think of a good example of the law of rhythm. I mean, it's so relevant in almost all areas of our life. I feel like I was thinking, like, even with children, like, yeah, I mean, we can be in this place in our lives where, you know, the house is always a mess. We feel like we sweep the floor 52 times a day. And everything is like this, but we can also realize, and I feel like this could really help us to appreciate the moment even more, is we can remember that, you know, these times are in the future. Maybe this is a bigger, wider ebb and flow. These times in the future are going to come where the children are the ones sweeping the floor, for example, or they are the ones sweeping their own floor that are not in our house anymore. So it kind of like, yeah, it kind of helps us to appreciate the present moment more when we recognize, like, nothing is, I want to say monotone, like flat. Everything is always happening and changing and shifting. So it really helps us to remember to enjoy and to really be present in our moments, right? And then again, that ability to shift and to change if we recognize something is not how we would like it to be, right? We can shift the awareness. Okay, next one, the law of relativity. I hope this is helping you guys. You guys are amazing. Okay. The law of relativity. I think that's the next one we got in the book here. Yes. Okay. So the law of relativity, all things, everything is relative. Everything is relative. So even the laws are relative. Okay. So, for example, all, like, everything. So for example, like all rates of vibration are either high or low, right? But only by comparison with those above or below them. Does that make sense? So if there was just something like this cup, for example, it just is. It's not big or it's not small. But if I put it next to the water bottle, now it's small. Okay, now it's smaller in comparison to the water bottle. So the law of relativity is that it states that nothing, like everything just is until we have a perspective attached to it, right? Until we kind of like give it a name. Okay. So sizes, frequencies, everything. Money just is. Okay. If we think of, if we say, okay, $10,000, for example, $10,000. If we have this belief that $10,000 is a lot of money, that belief, where'd that belief come from? That belief came from something that we learned. It was learned in our past, right? Most of the time it's in our past. So somebody in our past or something taught us that $10,000 is a lot of money. And like, look at our society, look at anything in our society, and you're gonna get the reminder that, yeah, $10,000 is a lot of money. Okay, but it's only relative. It's relative. It's relative. So Bob always says, make it look small. So if you have a goal and you're like, this goal feels like it's so, it's big, like it's a big, like, and we always talk about the C-type goal, right? We always talk about the C-type goal is something that makes you stretch, and it's something that pushes you, and it's something that, like, it's scary, and it's like this thing. How can we come back to the law of relativity and remember that it's not big or small? It's only our perspective. Interesting, right? It's only the name we give it. So how can we make it look small? How can we make that? I mean, like, it's, again, I do truly believe that this law helps us. Remember before when we talked about the conscious mind being our thinking mind, and we need to find, we need to have order in the mind. We need to have understanding in that conscious mind before we can see our desire as being possible, right? We need to be able to see it in our conscious mind as a possibility. I think that this law, for me, this is what it feels like for me, is this law of relativity. It's this reminder that, hey, this goal is not actually big or small. It just is. Okay, there's many people and I guess, like, I can now say it's possible too. It's manifesting, like, for example, $10,000 takes the same amount of energy as manifesting $5. It's all the same thing. It's just it's whether or not our conscious mind can accept it as truth. Because if we don't accept it as truth, what do we do with it? We reject it and doesn't even make it to the subconscious mind. The subconscious mind is our thinking mind. It's where, sorry, our feeling mind. It's our emotional mind, where we, like, our subconscious mind is where we create from. It's our spiritual mind. So if we can't even believe our desire to be true or to be a possibility, and our conscious mind rejects it, where are we standing there? Right? Feels kind of like defeated, right? But so interesting, right? So I hope that this you're kind of understanding this, is that, we can use the law of relativity for our advantage when we see our desire as small. How can we get rid of that label even altogether? Like that label of, oh, it's something that's big and it's scary and it takes a lot of work and all this stuff. Like that's just us in our perspective, labeling something from our own programming and our paradigm from the past. Okay, so how can we see this as something that is totally attainable, something that we could totally create? That is the magic, and that is what I believe the law of relativity really helps us to do. Okay, so another thing here with the law of relativity is that, if we're looking for, I mean, whatever we're looking for, we're gonna find, right? And so if we're, like, kind of like, isn't very relative, but anyway, everyone does something better than you. Okay, so if we are ourselves working towards our goal or our desire, and we are looking around in our 3D reality, and we're like, oh, we open up social media and we're like, oh man, she's so much better than me. Like, she's, all these people, like, we have these experiences in our physical reality where we're like, oh my God, like who am I? Like, I'm not even like, I can't, you know what I mean? We're comparing ourselves to everyone else's situations. I really, really dislike when people, you know, they ask somebody who is so much more, maybe even, what's the word I want to say, like progressed in their journey. They're so much further ahead in their own journey of whatever it is, like somebody who is just starting a business, and they ask somebody who is very progressed in their journey, and they ask them what their daily even routine is, for example, like that is basically self-sabotaging yourself, because that person's routine is going to look so different than how it looked when they were just beginning. It's just kind of like, it makes me kind of sad when, it has that feeling of like, it makes me, yeah, feel like kind of sad, because it's like you're self-sabotaging yourself. Okay. It doesn't matter what that person's thing looks like now, because once we recognize, I mean, like I just am saying this because I see so many people self-sabotage themselves, and they don't even take a step towards their big C-type goal, their C-type goal, because they don't believe they're good enough. Right. And so that the law of relativity is an opportunity for us to recognize that, it just is. It just is. And it's our opportunity to see that, our first step is unique. And what we're going to learn, and I've talked to you guys like personally about this as well, it's like what we're going to learn when we take that first step towards our desire, that intuitively led step, everything is going to open up. Just like we've talked about in the previous laws, everything is happening for you by law. But if we don't believe that we can do it, if we don't bring that order to the mind, right, and we don't, we stop believing it's something that's so far out of reach, and we start to see it as being possible, and we start to allow our subconscious mind, our conscious mind to accept it as truth, our subconscious mind to get emotionally involved with it, we can start to manifest it, right? We can start to bring it into physical form. But if we are stuck in this comparison of like, gosh, this girl is so good and she's done all of this, and look at how much research she's done, like, who cares? She's probably been in business 11 years. Are you going to let that stop you from even taking the first step forward? And from my own personal experience, I absolutely love this. I hope this is helping you. I love this because it gives us this opportunity to get to progress so quickly, right? Most people will wait until conditions are perfect. Most people will wait until they've got it all figured out or all planned out before they take a step forward, before they start, before they, take a step forward, before they, they might get these intuitive hits when they get this, like, oh, this image, I feel so good, it feels amazing. And they might be like, oh, I should do this. And then the conscious mind's like, no, not ready yet, not ready. I'm not ready yet. I need to plan everything out. I'm not ready yet. So we sabotage. Most people are there. Okay, but we don't do that here. Okay, so when we can work with the law of relativity and all the other laws and recognize our goal is not big or small, it just is, and we can release this control, and we can hold the vision and get energetically, emotionally involved with this beautiful dream we have, we can then take aligned action, and everything, just like Bob said, everything comes in the perfect timing. Okay, so I hope that helps you guys. But when we relate to something or someone that we're not good at, we literally self-sabotage, right? We self-sabotage. So next time we're thinking of, even if we're manifesting or we're working with money, for example, it just is, right? Make it look small. Like Bob says, make it look small. How can you make it look small? Okay. And thinking back to when last month when I manifested $10,000 out of like seemingly nowhere, I can remember now, as I was just talking about the law of relativity just a second ago, I can remember finally feeling like a click. It's so weird. It's like putting a puzzle piece in place, like boom. This click of, oh my gosh, it feels small and it feels attainable. It feels, I can actually see it happening now. There we go. It's no wonder it manifested. Okay. So I hope you guys are having your own kind of like aha moments here of like, oh my gosh, this is why that happened. I now see that I have been working with the laws forever. I just didn't know. I didn't have the awareness. And now I have this awareness. I get to be more efficient, right? Okay, so the next one we are on, I think, number 6. Yes, I think. The law of polarity. Okay, the law of polarity. So polarity is pretty self-explanatory, right? Everything has a polarity. It's an opposite. Hot or cold, bad, good, inside, outside, whatever. So we have a everything has an up, everything has a down, kind of like the law of what's the word I'm looking for? Rhythm. I was going to say cause and effect. The law of rhythm, right? So the law of polarity states that not that everything not only has an opposite, it has an equal and opposite. Excuse me. So, for example, I'm going to use this example. If there were 3 feet from the floor onto the table, it would be 3 feet from the table down to the floor. It could not be any other way. So we can realize this and start applying the law of polarity by changing our own perception, okay, to see both sides of a situation, both sides of a circumstance, both sides of a person, both sides of, you know, anything really. So this can help us to, it's kind of like similar to what we just talked about, to be honest. This can help us to move forward and to start, you know, closing the gap and collapsing time, starting to manifest our desire into our physical world, because we realize everything in life just is. And so we make it negative or positive by how we choose to think about the situation. So it is our choices, not our circumstances, that create the life we live. We've talked about this a bit already. So the law of polarity kind of takes the law of relativity kind of one step further, right? So we have this opportunity to see something as big or as small. But we also have this opportunity to perceive something and to see it as negative or positive. Okay, so when we are working with our goal, or say we want to manifest money, and we're oh, that's not a very good example, actually. So everything in our life just is, right? It just is. The law of polarity helps us to move towards what we want, because we can tap into this idea of, hey, I get to choose what I perceive to be true here. So how am I going to think about this situation? It's my choices, not my circumstances. So how am I going to view this? Okay. So I think this kind of relates back to my own personal situation of how back when I was a single mom and I was living in government housing, and I was, you know, receiving the little bit of money from the government each month. In that situation, I had the opportunity to see it as a negative situation or a positive situation. And so a lot of people, you know, might be in that situation and be kind of in the thick of it. It's not easy. There's nothing easy about it. It's not necessarily fun even. There's definitely aspects to that were very, very, very challenging. And so in that situation, like a lot of you already know my story and of that story of how I decided something was going to be different. And so I could have, using the law of relativity, I think is a big one here as well, of this, like, all things, or maybe not relativity, is more like rhythm. But I can see, like, okay, this is the situation I'm in, and I can choose how I want to perceive it, right? It kind of just is, but I can focus on it and kind of get wrapped in the negativity around it. What's going to manifest? Probably more negativity and more reasons to be negative, right? Or I can choose to turn it around and see, like, hey, I notice now, like, this is kind of a little bit of a, how do you call it, like a valley in my life. This is a bit of a valley situation, and I can choose to connect into something that's higher, something that makes me feel good. And that's what I did, right? I chose to take myself out of that situation and instead focus on something that is positive. And so I think that this kind of like plays in that a little bit, the law of polarity. So if we can see our life as just is, instead of making it a more negative situation and focusing on that, we can choose to see we can choose to focus on our perception and ask ourselves, how am I perceiving this situation? How am I perceiving it? How am I feeling about it? Okay, it's our choice, right? We get to choose. And then in that moment, instead of focusing on the negativity, we can then focus on something that is working and focus on how we do want to feel. So good, right? So it's a little bit on the law of polarity. I think that it's a very self-explanatory law, because everything has an opposite, and it's up to us whether we see it as negative or positive. And it's all about connecting into our own perception, because perception, I always say, it's our own perceived thoughts, or what we perceive to be true. Like, everything we believe is our own perception. Okay, think about that. Our own perception, because it was created, it's kind of got this filter of our paradigm or our program that is our perception, right? That's one of the higher faculties, or that's one of the, what's the word? It's heavily governed by our paradigm, is our perception. Okay, so if we are in any situation, remember that our perception governed by our paradigm. We can ask again, and we can say, am I willing to shift my perception? Am I willing to shift the way I'm seeing this situation now? Or am I going to continue to live in this program, in this paradigm, and see things this way? So in every moment, I want you guys to ask yourself, how am I viewing this? What is my perception on this situation? Everything just is, but there's always a opposite. There's a hot, there's a cold, there's a yes, there's a no, good, bad, inside, outside, whatever, up, down, negative, positive. You choose to think about the situation. How you choose to think about the situation, your perspective on this situation is how, it's kind of like how you will feel about it and what will happen, what will manifest. Kind of interesting, right? Okay. The next one is the law of cause and effect. So this is whatever we send out into the universe, whatever we assume, comes back. So action and reaction are equal, but they're also opposite. So everything in the entire universe happens according to law. Think about that. There's no such thing as chance. There's no such thing. I always say there's no such thing as coincidence, right? Everything happens by law. Every effect must have a cause. In turn, that cause must have an effect. So we have the perpetual, never-ending cycle of cause and effect. Cause and effect. Okay. So this is interesting. So we must concentrate on the cause. The cause and the effect will automatically take care of itself. So this is a common human thing, is to try to control the outcome of everything, right? try to control the outcome of everything. What we want to focus on here is remembering that everything has an effect. Every thought has an effect. Every action has an effect. How we treat someone has an effect, right? How we take care of our body, how we fuel our body, obviously has an effect, right? So everything will come back. So that's how the law of cause and effect works, is that whatever we send out, whatever we think about, whatever we do will come back to us. Okay, I mean, this is kind of like, I'm pretty sure people would call this the karmic law as well, like the law of karma, like what happens no matter what, really. And so it's really, of course, we all want to operate and exist in a ethical, humane way. But I think this takes it a little bit deeper, is that this, like, is this recognizing that, and I think this is leading into the next law we're going to talk about here, recognizing that everything has a cause. So these thoughts you're thinking now, these this work you're doing now towards your desire, towards your desire being manifested, has a cause. It has a big cause, and it has a beautiful effect. So what's going to happen? By law. Everything happens by law. There's no such thing as chance or coincidence. If you are operating in this energy of the assumption that this desire is manifesting, yes or yes, and we're acting in that assumption, we can really kind of find peace and relief within the law of cause and effect when we know, hey, I am taking care of the cause. I'm concentrating on the cause. I'm doing my part. I'm in flow, in spirit. I am taking aligned action. All of this beautiful creation. I am disciplined, right? We're taking care of the cause. The effect will automatically take care of itself. The desire will manifest by itself with law, or by law, okay? So I hope that you can see this and kind of connect the dots. So interesting, right? It will automatically take care of itself, the law of cause and effect. So if we can really remind ourselves that all the time, and really, for me, again, it's that relief. It's that feeling of accomplishment. Oh my gosh, how can we exist in that energy? And I do think that by using the law of cause and effect, or even just remembering or realizing the law of cause and effect, we can find this space of relief and accomplishment when we really, truly, fully understand that the cause, right? We are focused on the cause. We are focused on our thoughts. We are watching our thoughts. We are only choosing thoughts that serve us. We are in that energy. We are existing in that space from the end, living in the joyful assumption that our desire or our life is already here. Our dream life, whatever it is already here. All those bills paid off. It's already happening here. How does it feel? It feels amazing. It feels fantastic, exciting. It feels like a relief. It feels like an accomplishment. Guess what's going to happen? Your desire will manifest by law. Okay, the effect will automatically take care of itself. Love that. So good. So as a reminder, we do things in that certain way. We do things with the remembrance, is that a word? Remembrance that everything has an effect. So what's the effect going to be? Our desire, whatever we're focusing on to manifest. Okay, this kind of leads into the law of gender, the last one we're going to talk about here. The law of gender. This is a kind of multifaceted law, and I think could be taken a little bit the wrong way sometimes. One moment. But hopefully here you'll kind of get a grasp for what I'm trying to share, and a little bit about this law, the law of gender. So the law of gender is the creative law. Okay, so it's it's basically stating, it's a pretty cool explanation, I think, in the workbook. The law of gender teaches us that both masculine and feminine must exist. It also reminds us that all seeds have a gestation period, and for anything to grow, energy is required. Ooh, so good. Excuse me, so good. So in nature, we need a masculine and a feminine. Both are required for life to exist. Okay, so this is in the animal kingdom, this is plants, this is everything, okay? But we also have this in our energetics as well. We've talked about this a lot, right? Without the dual kind of like male and female and all things, there would not be a difference of potential or like regeneration or like creation, right? So all things, and I guess like this is the controversial piece, is like, okay, do we really need men? Like there's science now. I mean, I don't want to kind of go there. There is this basic concept of the masculine and the feminine. Okay, we're the difference of potential. Okay, so all new things are a result of changing from something that was, right? So into something else that now is. So for example, a caterpillar into a butterfly, that's pretty cool. Or a thought into physical reality. So this as well is this like gestation, right? So a consciousness or thought, remember, our conscious mind is our thinking mind. It is a masculine energy. That is that masculine energy. What the life force that brings form to the thought in physical reality is the feminine energy. It's the feeling, or it's our subconscious feeling mind. Okay, so together though, one experiences both the masculine and the feminine energy, and this is the creative process. Okay, so the law of gender, let's actually continue on there with the masculine and feminine. Okay, so I myself personally used to exist primarily in the masculine energy. And I was raised by a single mom who wore both hats, the mom and the dad, and is a very masculine human being. And so we are taught in our, our own physical experience to, if we want to earn more money, we need to work harder for it. We need to work, longer hours. That's just how the logical mind works. We need to work harder and longer. Okay, could go on forever just talking about that, but I won't. So our masculine mind is this like do, right? It's this like work harder, I've got to hustle, gotta do the things, or plan it out, or I gotta figure it all out. That's the masculine energy. And that's it's a great place. But when you live in masculine energy and you're in this like push, pull, struggle, stress, like go, 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 guess what happens? We burn out. Okay, so what happens though? What's the opposite? What's feminine? So our feminine energy is, somebody who's existing mostly, if not all, and the feminine is like, there's a like it's visualizing, it's meditating, it's feeling, it's experiencing, it's living in flow, it's kind of floaty. Okay, where is this secret lies in both of them coming together. Okay, this is what the law of gender is saying here, is that we need the both. Okay, we are incredible human beings, and we get to create anything on the screen of our mind and bring it into our physical world. We can do it in such a beautiful, in flow, in spirit way when we really truly work with the laws. Everything will manifest by law. Okay, but we need this kind of like this connection of both the feminine, and we need the masculine. We need the feeling, we need the emotional, we need that visualizing connectedness and that understanding on a intellectual level, which is the masculine, to bring it into the physical, to kind of plant that seed in, it's almost like the womb of the mind, right? We need that. Okay, we need that. So we have that desire, and we can choose, like most people do, to take action and plan it out and figure it out and blah, blah, blah. Or we can choose to have this desire, bring it into the emotional, the emotional feminine mind. And then we bring in this beautiful masculine to take action. Masculine is our action. It's very, very necessary, because if we spend all our time visualizing, feeling, and then we get these, like, what'll happen is we'll get this kind of intuitive, because it's the feminine, it's the energetics. We're tapped into our intuition. This is so powerful. And again, it takes practice. If you're somebody who's been operating in the mechanical for so long, like, your tendencies are going to be, I need to be working harder. This is not working. I need to be working. Like it's a push-pull kind of fight thing going on at first. But if you can really, truly stay strong, stay in this energy, right? Surround yourself with people who think this way and live in this material. It will help you. Okay, so I lost my train of thought there for a second. So yeah, when we're operating in this way, I totally lost my train of thought. We're in the spiritual, we have this idea, and then we have the masculine, and we have, okay, so what will happen is when we're in this alignment, this beautiful energetics, we're embodying our desire, we're going to get intuitive sparks, I call them. We're going to get intuitive sparks of like, hey, I need to do this. This is the action I can take. Or we'll start to receive guidance from other people, or like something will happen. And if we don't have the action, the discipline, the masculine aspect of this, we're going to go back into the feminine and be like, I'm not ready yet. I'm not ready yet. We need to be able to recognize that, hey, we need both. Okay, so the law of gender also says that all seeds, and remember that ideas are spiritual seeds. Remember, because the thoughts it's like a thought and spirit are synonymous. You know what I'm trying to say? Synonymous. All seeds have a gestation or an incubation period before they will manifest. So in other words, when you choose a goal or build the image in your mind, a definite period of time must elapse before the image manifests in physical reality. Okay, so interesting, right? So this gestation period, we're literally, when we get into the vibrational alignment and really truly decide on our desire, we're planting that seed into the womb of the mind, into that, once it can get past the conscious mind, and their conscious mind can perceive it as being possible, we can then bring it into the subconscious, get emotionally, really truly emotionally involved with it, work with all the other laws, like seeing it as, possible, living in the assumption of it, all of these awesome things, we can then begin to manifest it, right? But there's an incubation period. So the incubation period, it's our time where the manifestation is in process, right? It's like loading. There's a lag. So just like we're going and planting those seeds in the garden or in our little cups to sprout them, like there's a gestation period. We can't just plant it one day and then like 6 hours later be like, it's not growing, and get all frustrated and be like, it's not working, and throw it out, it's not working. We can't do that. Same with our desires, same with our manifestations. This is very, very important. So there's something really important here that happens when we are manifesting, when we are creating this desire and we are planting it in the womb of the mind, and we are living in joyful assumption that our desire is here now and it's ours. We must be developing discipline to train our mind and thoughts to only think thoughts that serve us, and to develop the awareness to catch ourselves when we think of thoughts that aren't, and choose again. All we need to do is choose again. I no longer live there. I'm not giving my power away to that negative thought, that low vibrational thought, that thought of lack or limitation. No, thank you. I reject. And I think thoughts that are working for me. And the more we can do that, we're building up this kind of like, we're building up this belief even more. But what happens is we're giving it more energy. For anything to grow, it needs energy. Plants require energy. Energy from the sun, for example. Our thoughts and ideas thrive on the energy that we give them. If we're feeding our garden in our mind thoughts of lack and limitation, what's going to happen? You're going to start to die. Okay, so apparently there is one way to shorten the incubation period needed for the idea to manifest into physical form, through concentration. The more we give our desire our concentration, right? The more we spend our time or invest our energy there. I don't even like to use the word spend, right? So that's really, really the basics of it. Like that's the base of manifesting, and how we can speed it up is we need to develop this awareness to catch ourselves when we're thinking thoughts that are not serving that are not watering our beautiful garden. Okay. And we can develop this awareness to choose again. And so if we want to collapse time and quantum leap and bring our desire into our physical world in like record speed, like something that's totally non-linear, doesn't even make sense, how do we do it? We concentrate on it. We basically, what's the word? Kind of like brainwash ourselves into thinking differently, right? Thinking that our desire is already here. We live in relativity to our desire already being here. Okay, so that's really, really important to remember that there is a gestation period. So, because what I see so often is people that they have this big dream or goal or desire, and they get discouraged because it's not happening. And then what happens? We like throw ourselves off. We start digging ourselves a hole and kind of like feel like we're going backwards. The good thing is we get to choose again in any moment. Okay. So what I want you to remember is there's like kind of like what we've been talking about quite a bit today is kind of like the bridge of incidents. So once we have the desire and we decide it's ours, kind of like this bridge of incidents will start to happen. Like things will start to happen, just like Bob Proctor said in that quote I shared. The moment your belief matches with any state, you fuse with it. This union results in the activation and projection of its plots, plans, conditions, and circumstances. Okay, this new state of conscious awareness becomes your home from which you view the world. It is your workshop. And if you are observant, you will see outer reality shaping itself upon the model of your imagination. Like I can't even. So good. So remember that there is a gestation period, and it's your job to hold the vision, continue to give it good, loving, nurturing thoughts, and to reject everything that's not serving, right? Continue to put yourself in the experiences, right? If your desire is a new certain model of a car, go and drive the car, like get in the energy of it, smell it, feel it, experience it, and practice being in that energy. Something outside of your own perception right now will come, and we'll be able to deliver that new car to you. That money will come, who knows where. It's us that's in our own way. When we're saying, oh, but how is it even possible? I don't even know how to do that. There we go. We just derailed ourselves and threw it all into garbage, basically. Okay, do you understand what I'm saying here? Is that we need to believe it to be a possibility so we can get past the conscious mind. The conscious mind can accept it as a possibility. Subconscious mind, emotionally involved with it, really, really, truly emotionally involved with it, because you can get emotionally involved with almost anything. But are you really, truly emotionally involved with it? Because that's how it's going to manifest. Okay, is your conscious mind rejecting it? You're just trying to get emotionally involved with it? Okay, just some interesting concepts, right? Okay, so you guys, I want you to pull out your notebook again. And hopefully you already have it and you've been taking notes like crazy. So I want you to reflect on this. Okay, which law did you resonate with most? Which law did you realize you've been living in harmony with this whole time. Which laws have you been living against? Really interesting, right? Just such good awareness to really just ponder this and ask yourself these beautiful questions, right? So I hope that this, like, I know that there's been parts of this that are new to you possibly, and I hope that you can open up to the opportunity to accept them as truths and open up to this new awareness that we have now explored together. Okay, so going forward, there's also in the workbook a little plan of action, or like I can't remember what I called it. Like, it's time to put these into use, right? So plan of action, that's what I called it. Plan of action. Where are you going to be more mindful, right? Where are you going to be more aware? Where or how do you plan to incorporate these laws into your life going forward? Okay, what are your triggers to remind yourself throughout your day when you notice you're off, right? And what will you do if you do notice yourself falling back into old tendencies? What will you do? Because it's going to happen. It's going to happen. Might as well make a plan on how we're going to shift back into how we do want to feel, right? So I encourage you to do this homework, really truly like take this information, watch it over again. I highly recommend you do, and bring it into your body, right? Listen to it while you're doing things around the house, washing dishes, whatever. Just become more aware of this information, and you're going to start to embody it. You're going to start to build a new level of experiences for yourself. Okay, so thank you guys so much for being here. I have so much gratitude for everyone here on live, on the recording. You guys are all amazing, and thank you so much again for being here. I have a challenge for all of you. Students of proximity, we have a prize in proximity for you. Okay, for one of you who do this, who actually do this. So here it is. I want you to fully embody this material. Okay, I want you to practice this and really release the control, the perceived control that we think we have. Okay, practice it, visualize, understand it in our conscious mind and our subconscious mind. And what I want you to do is share in proximity an example when something has happened for you by law, a real life example. Okay, it can be anything. I would love it to be something that happens recently or happened recently, especially within the next few days, like this week, after knowing and realizing this material. I would love for you to post it in proximity. Just tell us about it, okay? And I'm gonna have like I said, a prize for one of you in proximity there. It's pretty cool, it's pretty fun, okay? So a real life example. Those of you that are watching that aren't in proximity, you're welcome to, of course, do this challenge as well. And if you want to, share it on social media or share it in Manifest, the Manifest with Jocelyn group. And I would love to see. Okay, so thank you so much for being here. Thank you for being on live with me. It was so good to see you. And we'll, yeah, I'm so pumped for this material. You guys are all amazing. And I think that it just feels so cool to know that like we're not alone and we don't need to work harder. We don't need to push, pull, struggle, stress, worry, all the things. We can release control and find such like beautiful accomplishment and relief in this like knowingness that everything is working out for us. Oh my gosh, it's amazing. Okay, so have an amazing day. Thank you again for being here. Bye.